Okay, so hello everyone. Good afternoon to those here in our central zones, and good morning to those out on the West Coast. I'm Savannah, and I am the Refuse Management Specialist here at Busch Systems. So thanks everyone for joining and participating in our webinar today. We're going to be looking at waste management at large events. So we expect that this webinar is going to be about less than an hour or so. And I'd like to also mention that we recently switched our webinar software. So hopefully this time around things are more reliable and things can run smoothly here today. So to prevent any background noise, everyone's microphones have been muted. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question or the chat field, and I will address them at the end of today's webinar. If we run out of time as well, I'll provide you with my email address at the end of the webinar, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me directly that way. And we're also promoting something today as well. This is the first time that we're doing this, but when our webinar wraps up today, you'll be receiving a survey by email. And if you actually reply back to that survey, you'll be entered in to win a set of our Waste Watchers. So please go ahead and fill out that survey, and we'll be contacting the winner before the end of today. So this webinar is going to be recorded. You will be sent out the recording afterwards. So if you know of anyone that would find this information valuable, please feel free to forward on the recording to them. Okay, I think we are all ready to get started here. So here we are in the middle of July. Summer is in full swing and summer events are happening everywhere. So today we're going to be looking at some of the best practices when it comes to adding in sustainability to your events. Regardless of the size of your event, it's really inevitable that a lot of waste and a lot of recyclable material is going to be generated. And there's tons of opportunities at these type of events to divert waste. And it's a great opportunity to start recycling. So putting into combination best practices that I'll talk about today, this can help you to better manage the refuse generated at your event and also control waste management costs. So when we talk events, we're talking really a broad variety of events: outdoor food and art festivals, concerts, sporting events, campus tours, and much more. The points that I'm going to touch on today can be applied to any size event from big to small and can also be used in any season. We're also going to take a look at some successful green outdoor events and what it takes to make these events thrive. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you might be wondering, why should you recycle at your event? There are so many benefits to reducing the amount of waste that you're generating, including meeting community expectations, making your event marketable to sponsors, instilling positive change in both vendors and attendees, diverting recyclables and compost from the landfill, increasing environmental awareness, and also reducing landfill hauling costs. So typically, these events produce a lot of waste, which can result in big waste bills. So by recycling, you have this opportunity to save a lot of money. There's always a fee for waste pickup, but recycling is likely free of charge. And some state and county policies actually require recycling at large events. Also, you can take an approach as the guests at your event really notice your efforts and appreciate it. So in short, recycling is great PR. By recycling, you're saving valuable resources, conserving energy, and reducing pollution. After your event is over, you can determine the number of recyclables that would have been thrown in the waste. You can also figure out how many plastic products were replaced with the use of compostable materials. And then this information can be used as a benchmark for future events and in your marketing material. So when we think about how we can get our attendees to recycle, it's really important to think about your audience. So who are you directing this type of recycling behavior to? Here's a breakdown of some of the attitudes associated with recycling when it comes to the general population. So we gathered these statistics from our friends at Keep America Beautiful. And in terms of the general population, 15% of people are actually environmental enthusiasts, 15% are skeptics, and 70% are somewhere in the middle. So with the majority of people being neutral, we really have the advantage here to capture, to educate, and persuade this key target group with our efforts to improve recycling. Some ways that we can ensure that attendees are participating is to really make the action of recycling as simple as possible and to remove all the different possible barriers. So this really is a recurring theme when we talk recycling. Consumers that recycle in their everyday lives at home and at the office are a lot more likely to be on board to recycle in public spaces. So in the perfect world, getting people to recycle at home would be really beneficial in terms of recycling in all other areas. So now we're going to take a look at some key considerations to encourage recycling at your event. The first being location. So ensure that the recycling containers are conveniently placed. Ideally, this would be directly beside waste containers, and then that way people don't need to be going out of their way looking for the proper container. Positioning. Bins should always be positioned in order to anticipate foot traffic. So with the container opening facing toward where the highest volume of people are walking by, this encourages the highest level of participation. So being consistent with all the containers that you're providing is really critical. In a study that was conducted at the University of Michigan, gray recycling containers and gray trash containers resulted in 52% of material being recycled correctly. When the recycling container was switched to a green color and the trash remained gray, 88% of the material was recycled correctly. So studies by Keep America Beautiful have concluded that square openings work best for waste, round openings for mixed, and either round or square for organics. And by using restrictive lids, this helps identify recycling, and recycling rates increase on an average of 34%, and trash actually decreased by 95%. So you only really have a split second to get the proper message across to people as to which items go where. And as you know, a lot of these events are crowded, so it's really critical to ensure that consistent visuals are also being used. And it's good to take the approach of remembering that recycling isn't always the focus of these event goers. So ingraining the behavior and really keeping it simple, these are two really important components to be successful in your recycling efforts. So another obstacle could be that your attendees and your vendors might speak different languages. So to overcome this, photos and icons on all signage can really help to take the guesswork out. So signage clarifies which materials are in fact recycled and which items go where. But be careful to avoid any kind of information overload. So this is kind of an example of that on the screen here. We've also had success with sticking specific items to the correct container that they go in. So for example, a Dixie cup on a recycling container. And ensuring that your signage is also located up high. So this makes sure, this allows your attendees to be able to locate these stations from wherever they may be on the grounds. Simple, easy to read signs are the most effective. Here's some of our Busch containers here with some signage that we kept simple and had some great results with. So ideas for outreach at your event. This can include recycling info in your event program, making recycling announcements over the sound system, putting recycling messages on electronic boards, and posting success stories on your website, app, or social media. And local people, they don't want to see their towns and their festival grounds being destroyed by event goers. So the more that you can communicate with attendees the importance of sustainability, the better overall experience for everyone. So planning well in advance of your event is one of, if not the single most important thing that you can do to ensure success. So for all the event planners out there listening, you're definitely going to agree when I say that there are plenty of moving parts to event planning. And making sure that waste management isn't at the bottom of your list is the best way to ensure success. So by scheduling a pre-event meeting to review your waste management plan and to make any necessary changes is really important. This is an excellent opportunity to ask for further clarification and to get feedback on how to improve on your current plan. And there's a few different considerations to keep in mind as well. One of them is to consider the evaluation process. So think about the types of material that are commonly found in your streams, and then offer a reduction effort for these specific items. So an example, if plastic water bottles are really a problem, you can consider banning their use altogether. Sell reusable bottles that are branded with event logos and incorporate water filling stations as seen here. This meeting is really a great time to ensure that your waste management plan is aligning with all the different key elements to encourage recycling. Remember, you need to make sure that your bins are assigned to the proper locations and that bin positioning is specified and all bins and signage are consistent as we just spoke about. So in order to control the level of contamination you're experiencing in your containers, you can also restrict the materials being accepted within your event. So some examples are banning plastic water bottles and even smoking from your event grounds. And then this keeps plastics out of your waste stream and cigarettes off the ground and out of your containers. So educating and training vendors, attendees, participants, and recycling staff on proper disposal is really an important factor as well. So the importance of recycling and proper recycling procedures is a key factor for a successful event. And when volunteers know what materials are to be properly recycled, they're able to direct the attendees to the correct station. Some events even choose to staff stations directly with volunteers or a green team. Not only then are you going to see better diversion rates, but this also gives an opportunity to really engage and speak with the different attendees about your specific waste diversion initiatives. And also it's a great opportunity to brand your event as being sustainable as well. So now that we've looked at some of the benefits to recycling and some of the key elements to encourage recycling, let's take a look at some specific suggestions that you can incorporate. So we're going to start by looking at food service. So here are some things that you can do to really minimize your organic waste and refuse associated with food servicing. First, buy in bulk to reduce quantity of single-use items and prepackaged foods. You can also consider investing in reusable plates, napkins, mugs, glassware. You can contact your caterer and inform them of mandatory use of reusable items. If you have the opportunity for organic collection, ensure that paper or compostable plates are used instead of plastic or polystyrene. And after your event, you can even donate extra edible food to the local food bank. So vendor communication is key. Ensure that source reduction and both recycling expectations are really understood among your vendors. Be sure to highlight the recycling requirements in your contracts. And you can also send guidelines in advance of the event and pass out instructional flyers to vendors before the check-in. A suggestion would be to communicate to vendors that they are responsible for providing their own waste recyclables in addition to carrying out their own waste, whereas the recycling container and servicing could actually be provided at no cost to the vendor. You can also consider sending a thank you note, thanking them for their efforts to make your event a green success. Another suggestion would be to have clear containers to reduce contamination at your event. By seeing different bottles and cans inside, this communicates that the container is for recyclables. These clear containers here are especially great for events. Some precautions to take, however, are that if the bin is initially filled with contaminants, this could communicate to everyone that the container is for waste when in fact it's supposed to be for recyclables. At the start of your event, in order to combat this, you could put a few clean recyclables into the container before setting it out. So this is an example of our Busch Systems wire event container. It's a really great lightweight option. It allows the container to be easily maneuvered from event to event. There's also magnets on the lid and it improves bag retention. And there's also a customized wrap option that helps you to tailor your recycling program to your specific event. So like anything in life, it's always smart to prepare for the worst, and this includes weather. So bad weather is always a possibility with any outdoor event. So consider a container with drilled holes as an option so that your container is not getting waterlogged if it rains. And containers that have a canopy are a good option as well. If containers are waterlogged, you can expect that the bags are going to be a lot heavier and servicing might take a little more time and effort from your staff as well. If paper and cardboard are being recycled and are exposed to the elements, they could become saturated, which may decrease its recyclability as these waterlogged paper products can't be recycled as readily. So contacting your hauler about tracking the amount of recycling and waste that's generated at your event. You can ask a third-party contractor for your waste weights in order to find out exactly how much was generated. And with this information, you can keep track of your event's progress from year to year. So by collecting accurate numbers on your recycling and waste generation, you're actually able to determine your progress and make any necessary adjustments. You can quantify your results in terms of numerical terms. So an example would be we generated 500 pounds of recyclables. Or another option is as a reduction rate. So an example could be we reduce our disposal tonnage by 10% over last year. An example of corporate goals can include something like exceeded our 50% recycling target by 10%. And then as a function of budget, we reduced our waste per attendee by 15%. So all of these are really great metrics to use when you're comparing year over year. So our team here at Busch Systems, we actually developed a completely free, easy to use software program that allows you to track and manage how much recycling and waste you're producing. So the Resource Center is a collection analytics software at its core. It allows you to easily get weight data associated with your varying stream collection on a daily basis. The information is then displayed on a colorful, intuitive dashboard and gives you information like your diversion rate, your total diverted weight, and your stream composition. So what makes the Resource Center really unique is its ability to digitally separate your facility or your area into different divisions. So this allows you to track in terms of different departments or areas completely separately. And then from there, it does this at the individual container level. So there's no more broad level overview. You can analyze your waste management system to really the finest detail possible. This allows you to target any problem areas and find out if there's any containers that are underperforming and might be better suited somewhere else. And then in addition, the Resource Center also has an environmental dashboard, and this gives you data associated with how your recycling and waste collection program is reducing your environmental impact. So it will tell you how many trees or how much landfill space, how many tons of greenhouse gas emissions have been emitted from the atmosphere because of your recycling habits. And again, that software program is completely free to use for anybody. So I'm just going to launch a poll now. Would you like more information on the Resource Center and how you can get set up for free? So if you want to go ahead and answer, and then if you are interested, I can reach out to you after and provide you with the information on how you can get yourself set up on there. So I'll just give you a second to go ahead and put those answers in there. Okay, so you should also take into consideration whether or not your event is accessible to the general public. So will people be passing by like with a street festival, or maybe the grounds are monitored and restricted to only paying attendees like a sporting event or a concert? So the access to your event grounds is really important to take into consideration for waste management planning, as it definitely affects the kind of refuse that you will see being generated. So if you're hosting an unrestricted event, you can expect attendees are going to have all kinds of recyclables and waste with them. Plastic water bottles, gum packaging, tobacco products, you name it, they're going to have it. And contamination is likely in this type of environment. Waste in your recyclables and recyclables in your waste. So it's advisable to check in with your hauler and find out exactly what is the acceptable level of contamination for your recycling and for your waste streams. And then once you have a better understanding of the types of waste you can expect, you're able to better focus your efforts to the front of house strategies. You'll probably discover that not all activities are going to be generating the same amount of waste or recyclables. So a lot of businesses follow the 80-20 rule. So this is where 80% of the waste or recyclables are actually generated by only 20% of the activities or in 20% of the actual space. So you're probably going to capture a large amount of recyclable materials in only a few targeted areas. Maybe your food vendor area or your main stage area. And it may not be cost effective to try and collect every last bit of recyclable material at your venue. And obviously, attendee waste generation patterns are going to vary widely depending on the kind of event. So a race or a parade generates a long linear pattern where you'll see clusters at the starting and finish line and water stations, and something like a baseball game generates most of the waste in the crowd. So now we're going to shift gears and look at some past events that have been successful with their sustainability initiatives. So at one particular outdoor festival, they incorporated something that they called the recycling store. And this is where festival goers could trade in 10 used plastic water bottles for one new cold water bottle. And this really encouraged attendees to clean up the festival grounds and to actively participate in the recycling program. Music lovers who attended Coachella noticed a whole new trend at the festival, and this was sustainability. So in 2016 alone, they had almost 100,000 attendees a day. And year after year, this 3-day event really generates a ton of waste, from food and alcohol to transportation, flights, driving. So they took their carbon footprint into account and made changes for their 2017 and 2018 festivals. And they teamed up with a nonprofit organization called Global Inheritance, and they are really dedicated to activism. So together they implemented a sustainability program that would educate attendees. And they looked at 7 key components, some of which included a carpooling program that encouraged people to lower car emissions. There was a recycling art contest, and people could actually submit designs for the recycling containers. And they even had a playground that produced energy to charge cell phones. So adding sustainability to your to your event doesn't really need to be difficult at all. By having a well thought out approach, as well as a good solid team, is really a recipe for success. So I'm just going to launch another poll here. So we're always curious to see what our viewers are interested in terms of webinars. So this poll here, if you could go ahead and answer and give us your opinion as to what you would be interested in for a next webinar topic. So there's 4 different options here. So one that looks more specifically at products, one that looks specifically at recycling studies, one that looks at new technologies, and then the final one, more ideas on how different people, so students, teachers, residents, can improve on their recycling habits. Okay, so I'll just let the answers come in for that one. So one frequently asked question when it comes to waste management at large events is, do I need the services of a professional management consultant, or can the program be done by my own staff? So there's really no right or wrong answer to this question. Venue options and event operations really vary, and some venues have used consultants to assist with the technical or research-oriented work in the early phases, and then they handle the rest on their own. And then other events, they leave the entire plan and execution up to their team. So if the latter is the case for you, hopefully today you were equipped with some knowledge, some different ideas and resources on how you can implement a successful recycling program at your next event. So that wraps up our webinar today on waste management practices. Thanks again for attending today. As I said, the webinar was recorded and you will be receiving an email with that recording. And also, like we mentioned, we will be doing that draw for whoever completes the survey for a set of our wastewater containers. So thanks for listening today. If you would like to attend our next webinar, that's going to be hosted on August 29th, and we're going to be looking at increasing recycling participation within schools. So keep an eye out for registration information for that webinar. I'm going to be sticking around for another 15 minutes or so to answer any of your questions. Also, my contact information is up on the screen, so please feel free to reach out with any comments or questions, suggestions, and I'll be sure to get back to you. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.